And to Iran, which is experiencing its worst drought for decades. Officials are warning residents of the capital, Tehran, of possible evacuations. Experts say part of the blame lies with the government for decades of mismanagement.
This is not a rare sight in most places, washing hands, taking a sip of water, but it could soon be considered a luxury in Tehran. Widespread drought is continuing for a sixth consecutive year, with rainfall at record lows and fears that reservoirs feeding Tehran could run dry within 2 weeks. The Iranian president, Masoud Pezeshkian, recently warned that with continued lack of rain, even with rationing, people living in Tehran, a city of more than 10 million, might have to evacuate. But many think the government could have prepared better for a foreseeable catastrophe.
If the government had the capability, it wouldn't have let it reach this point. They shouldn't have allowed it to happen. What is the government supposed to do? What do you expect them to do? They don't even make use of experts.
These 2025 satellite photos illustrate the story of the 5 dams providing Tehran's water, rapidly decreasing levels, dropping 43% in the last year alone, and their inflow reduced to a trickle. The UN says decades of mismanagement and lack of planning have long been felt in other sectors.
It first started with cutting water from the environment, most silenced or voiceless sector, then farmers, then industrial areas, and now the urban areas. We have never seen such a thing in Tehran, my lovely homeland where I was born. We never had a situation like this.
The UN expert says evacuation is practically impossible and that the Iranian president's remarks only add to public fear and confusion. Some residents are prepared after arranging for private water supplies.
Considering that our water reserves are running out, the Latian Dam and the Amir Kabir Dam as well, and based on the reports we've been hearing from the state TV and radio about water shortages and the water crisis, we decided to get a tanker so that at least we'd have some water reserves. That way, if the water is cut off, we won't be left stranded. After all, we have women and children at home, so at the very least we won't have water problems and can still use some if needed.
But the water crisis leads to fear and uncertainty nonetheless. In 2021, water shortage led to a violent protest in a southern province. Now, many are wondering how the government will prevent a similar uprising in Tehran.
Let's look at some of these issues with Alireza Nader, who's a political analyst who focuses on Iran and the Middle East. He joins us from Washington D.C. Welcome to DW. We heard in the report
Thank you for having me.
The UN essentially blaming incompetence, but you have written that this crisis is engineered, exploited and sustained by the very institutions that claim to protect the nation. That's a direct quote. Why?
Well, this is a responsibility and doing of the water mafia in Iran. And the water mafia is a complex organism. It's not one organization. It's a combination of the Revolutionary Guards, the Khatam al-Anbiya construction firm under the Revolutionary Guards, which has built numerous dams in Iran, dams that are not really required or necessary, but are really part of the problem. Corrupt government officials have transferred water from one location in Iran to another for their own benefits and enrichment. The government in Iran has had years and years to not only change its way, but prepare better for the crisis. It has really done nothing. It hasn't prepared the population. It hasn't given instructions to the people. It hasn't fixed Tehran's leaky pipes that are responsible for perhaps 35% of the problem. So the government in Iran is really to blame for a lot of this, and not just drought.
Right, so incompetence and corruption, a deadly combination. But you talk about this water mafia consisting of the Revolutionary Guard, construction firms that they control, and corrupt government officials who are doing this to what end? Is this purely about self-enrichment?
Yes, putting money in their pockets. This is what the theocracy in Iran is about. It doesn't really care for the land or its people, but has been exploiting Iran since the 1979 revolution. And officials in Iran have known about this problem. The so-called reformist or moderate former President Mohammad Khatami was warned about this 24 years ago. Officials have been warned about this for years. Instead, what they do is silence journalists, threaten and jail environmentalists. And because of the draconian measures the regime has taken against people who are trying to provide solutions, my hometown, Tehran, faces a complete water shortage. This is a city of 14 million people. When the president, Masoud Pezeshkian, says the people of Iran or Tehran will have to evacuate the capital, this is utterly, completely absurd. There's nowhere for these people to go to because the rest of Iran doesn't have water either.
Right.
So what city in Iran, what province, what country outside of Iran will take millions, potentially tens of millions of people when Iran's water runs out? And this is happening now.
When the water does run out, we know that there were shortages sparked violent protests in 2021. Are we likely to see the same again?
There have been a number of protests. The only violent force in Iran has been the regime itself that takes violent action against peaceful protesters. And yes, we will see more protests and unrest. Every day there are protests on the streets of Tehran over food prices, lack of gasoline, the execution of political prisoners, and now lack of water. So yes, the Islamic Republic in Iran should expect another major uprising. And I think
very briefly, just time's against us. I just want to get this last question in. Is it now too late for this government to do anything about this crisis?
If there was a less corrupt and more responsive government, it could do a lot, actually. But Iran's entire water governance system has to change. I think one thing the government can do immediately is fix those leaky pipes in Tehran, encourage citizens to consume less water, right. Publish rationing plans. And also citizens can do a lot as well, because they can't really count on the government, but Iranian citizens and civil society can also do a lot by not using as much water and reusing water. This is another major issue with Iran.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Alireza, thank you so much for joining us. Political analyst and Iran expert Alireza Nader.